Yo, what's good? It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Dallas Mavericks give us a heavyweight NBA showdown. And to be honest, I can't be mad at either team. You can get into, the Dallas Mavericks missed a lot of wide open looks. Should have probably blown this game open. Should have been able to run away with it. But the reality is when you face other great teams are going to be able to take away things and expose things about you. And that's exactly what Milwaukee did. Look, it's not a shame to lose to a championship contending team, especially when you're going toe-to-toe and you're playing in their home court. You see, the Milwaukee Bucks have not lost that champion pedigree. They have not lost that DNA. They understand how to pull out games, how to fight in the fire. And that's what you saw. And I want to get into a little bit of, what I saw take place, but I want to make sure that we start off with that this was a heavyweight championship game. These are two heavyweights. These are two heavy hitters. These are two teams that have two top 10 players on both teams. And when I say top 10 players, I'm talking about that superstar echelon of players who are a problem for everybody. And they can go toe-to-toe with any MVP candidate. They are just as talented, might be in a different situation, but they can go toe-to-toe. It doesn't matter who you put in front of them. And so to watch this type of a slugfest, like it literally was Giannis and Dame and company against Luka and Kyrie and company. All four stars showed up. All four stars turned it on, took over at different parts of the game. And I would say one of the things that I'll point out and start here is that it really was a make or miss game. The bench for the Milwaukee Bucks, especially Pat Connaughton, probably was the biggest X factor that I didn't think anyone really counted on. Pat Connaughton did a great job getting open, but not just sitting out on the wings and hitting threes. He was able to get in around the rim on offensive rebounds, getting putbacks, cutting off the ball, getting layups. And I think that helped get him going in terms of his three-point shot. And late in the game, he was money. And what's interesting is the same money shots that the Dallas Mavericks missed. Tim Hardaway Jr. was missing in the corner. Now, I will say there was a big difference in who was closing out on the guy in the corner. Many times it was Giannis Antetokounmpo closing out on that corner. And maybe that was a part of the defensive scheme that Adrian Griffin had for this team and said, look, we're going to force Luka, we're going to force Kyrie to drive maybe to their right. And we know on the backside, in the middle, we got Brook, who's an all-NBA defensive level center. I mean, he's got a 7'6" wingspan at 7'1", close to 7'2". Like, he's big. He's a behemoth when it comes to NBA centers. He even made Derek Lively, the second, look small. And he's a 7-footer in his own right? But it's to say that not only did you have to worry about him, but even when you kicked it out to that corner, which was the most open guy, you had Giannis closing out. 6'11", 7-foot forward, who's got great athleticism and mobility, and also a 7'7" wingspan. Big difference in that closeout versus Kyrie closing out on the man in the corner. Now, when you watch this game, if you had to give it to one team to say who was in control most of the time, it was Dallas by far. Jason Kidd has his team humming. That offense is looking beautiful because you got two guys who are amazing playmakers, and the accuracy of their assists. I didn't see a lot of turnovers. I didn't see a lot of sloppiness. I love Kyrie next to Luka because Kyrie's passing acumen and facilitation has just gone to levels. And I think being with Jason Kidd has probably only helped him in terms of his overall game management and ability to really facilitate and run the point guard position, probably better than he ever has before in his career. This really is, if he wasn't playing next to Luka, it would be the type of season where people are like, man, is he an MVP candidate? Because of the way that he's playing, he's just dominating and making it so hard because of how well he's facilitating and setting up his team. But it's to say that when you watch this game and them going back and forth, there were opportunities that Dallas had to blow this thing open, and they just didn't make shots. And a lot of times throughout the meat of the game, between that, end of the first to the beginning of the fourth, in the meat of the game, there were a lot of moments. They were up 10, they were up 12, and then guys just started missing. Josh Green couldn't hit. Grant Williams did a good job of knocking down enough shots, but they didn't have quite enough. They didn't have that third guy who's like, I can get you 18, 20. And that's what they needed in this game because it's against another, great team, right? But I will say that Dallas, you're looking great. Even though you let this one slip away, you're probably looking at yourself like, damn, we had this one in the bag. I think you walk away and feel really good about yourself, that you are a contender. This is a contending team, and it'll be interesting as they approach the trade deadline, which is earlier than it usually is in the past, how they will look to beef up their ranks, especially in terms of like size and length, right? I don't see them going with young guys, Olivier, Maxon, Prosper, however his name is. He's not going to get playing time unless there's like serious injuries. I wouldn't be shocked if they go after somebody like Dorian Finney-Smith, but expect them to make a move and get some more length, size, maybe some interior size to go behind Derek Lively, because I think you would rather have that rather than brother from Stanford. I always forget his name in the middle, but it's to say. They try this by committee. They didn't have Maxi Kleber, which I think will help when he gets back. Derrick Jones Jr., man, he had a rough game, and just he didn't play up to the level that this game demanded. But all that's to say is Dallas had a great game. Could have won this, could have ran away with it at any point in time throughout the game. But Dame time, and this is really what I want to get into. Damian Lillard, man, dude, he's been one of my favorite players for so long. He comes out of Oakland, California, Bay Area. I'm a Bay Area native myself, born and raised. Came up following Dame, coming out of Weber State. I just always knew he had it, and he never disappointed. And in this game, he did not disappoint. I know a lot of people were worried early on. The offense wasn't looking. Look, man. When you got two heavy hitters, most of the time early in the season, you're not necessarily worried about your heavy hitters, Dame and Giannis. I'm talking about here. You're not worried about them. What you're working out are the kinks of your periphery of what you're going to do, right? Like by the time they get into the middle of the season, the meat of the season, going to the All-Star break and post-All-Star break, right? They're going to be running that pick and roll. They're going to be doing their thing, Dame time, Giannis taking over, being the Greek freak, all that, and it's going to look dominant. But what they're working out now is like, how can we get the other guys involved, right? How do we figure out who's going to be our core 8 guys going into the playoffs, going into that stretch run, heading into the playoffs? Who are those guys going to be? And so I think a lot of the concerns is all those things, working out the kinks. But then you've seen recently the Milwaukee Bucks be like, all right, enough of that. Let's just go out and win. And that's what they've been doing. And Damian Lillard, man, first let me say, the Greek freak did his thing. He was dominant the entire game. He played like a champ. He played like an MVP. He played like a defensive player of the year. He played like he was supposed to. Big game, big moment. It's my moment. And that's how he played from beginning to end. And the guy that he needed, the guy that he's always needed, is that second dude who could take over just as much as he can so that he can rest for a moment. And that was Dame. That was Damian Lillard. And he did. Dame came on strong in that second half. when the game was, it was at that like 10 to 12, 10 11 range, and he could sense the moment. Third quarter, it's like, look, we need to get back in this going into the fourth because we know where we want to be. We know what it looks like to come back. And he understood what time it was. I mean, Dame time is real, y'all. If y'all didn't know this, Dame time is real. He understands when it's time for him to turn it on. And he did. He did just that. And he got this team back into the game. And Giannis kept cooking and doing what he was doing. But Dame was the dude who could create consistently from the perimeter, not just for himself, but for others. And he's really probably the major factor that was allowing Pat Connaughton to get off. He was setting up guys all day with his assists, dump offs, right? But he was hitting big shots, the type of shots that invigorate your team because they remind your team that you're never out of the game. It doesn't matter if it's an 8-point deficit, 10-point deficit, 12-point, or 4-point. You're never out of the game with me on the court. And as long as Dame was there, you always felt like, yeah, they might be struggling a little bit. They might be worried about this, but they're right there. At any moment, they can get this lead back. And they did when it mattered the most. And Dame had the momentum in such that he was able to pull that game almost to a tie. And then he kicked that ball out and Connaughton hit it. Wow. He hit that first three. And you could just tell it hit the Dallas Mavericks because they were missing. Kyrie was doing his thing. Luka was doing his thing. Luka got a little tired. It looked like he kind of faded a little bit towards the end. But the periphery guys, they were hitting for Milwaukee. The kickouts that he was kicking out to, when he kicked out to Pat Connaughton, it was Kyrie closing out on him. Not a Giannis. Not a long athletic player. It was 6'3" Kyrie Irving. And he did a great job getting out there. But Pat Connaughton, when you're 6'5" and somebody's 6'3" closing out on you, you're not really worried about that. And he knocked it down. And then Dame would create again. He would score, and then he would kick it out again, and they would knock it down. And that's why I said at the beginning, this was a make or miss game. Where had Dallas been able to knock down those shots, it probably would have been out of reach. But they didn't. And I'll also say this. Milwaukee's defense once again reminded us why it is NBA championship caliber. Because when it came time to lock up, and look, here's the reality. You're not going to lock down Kyrie. You're not going to lock down Luka. And they didn't. Those two got off. But what they were able to do was lock down everybody else. They were able to seal off the rim on the interior, forcing Dallas to those perimeter shots. And then they had great closeouts. They got there. They got a hand up. They were short staffed. They were without Chris Middleton. They were out. They were without Jay Crowder. Two guys who they anticipate being in that stretch run for a playoff run, right? And they made sure they got out to those shooters and challenged those shots, and they were able to pull it out. And if you're Giannis Antetokounmpo, you've got to be ecstatic because this was what you've been waiting for your entire career. The guy next to you, your running mate, who you could look over at and say, this guy in the trenches, when things are hot and everyone else, their hands is getting sweaty and they're worried about, if they're going to make a shot, this dude is going to be cool and collected. And if anything, I'm going to be honest with you, he's probably looking at him almost like LeBron looked at Kyrie back with the Cavaliers going into the finals. He was like, if I need to close, I trust giving the ball to this dude. I wouldn't be shocked in the playoffs if we see something similar where we see Giannis be like, look, it's the last second shot. Dame, go ahead and take it. Because he's showing Giannis, he's proven it night after night. If he needs somebody to create, to knock down, it's him. Dame is him. And I think if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, you got to be ecstatic. You got to be excited because you haven't seen him this entire time. They haven't had a him probably since Ray Allen and Sam Cassell and Glenn Big Dog Robinson. You know what I mean? Michael Redd had a couple moments, but to be honest, probably outside of Ray, they ain't never had a him. They ain't never really had it doesn't matter who you're going against. He's going to get you a bucket. He's going to hit that shot. And Giannis has found him. That's why he's signing the extension. That's why he ain't trying to go nowhere. And he's a happy camper. And if you're a Bucks fan, you should be too. Yo, at the end of the day, I want to know what y'all think. Holler at me in the comment section so we can chop it up. Smash the like button, hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.